Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. This is season 2, episode number 2. We have the award-winning Dori Mueller from Davenport Real Estate right here in Waterloo, Ontario. And Dori is going to be talking with me about everything from the current real estate market to why she picked real estate. Lots of other stuff to do out there. We're going to talk about our Italian heritage, what COVID means to everybody and everything. Great interview. Such an amazing person to talk to. Here we go with Dori Mueller.
Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast. Finance, life, business, and everything in between. And now, your host, Stephen Green.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Green Effect Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. So I put it out to everybody. Who wants to be in a podcast? Dori was the first to respond. She might have been the only one too, but Dori was the first to respond. Dori, welcome.
Thank you.
So Dori is a realtor at Davenport Real Estate, and we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff today. But the first thing is, you might be the first award-winning realtor I've ever had.
Oh,
So
that's great.
Tell
Fantastic.
people about yourself and what award you've just won.
So I won Rookie of the Year award. I feel like I should hold a hockey stick up as well, but some towel or something, but no, that's great. Awarded by Davenport. I'm a newer agent in a couple years, throw in a pandemic, great career start.
Yep,
but
no
that's
kidding.
Okay. We'll manage.
So how has it been 2 years? Sorry, I'm cutting you off there, but this is the way this goes now.
Sure.
How has it been? 2 years, 2 years in,
Yes.
pandemic.
Yep.
How do you manage?
Caffeine. At the beginning of this, so when I first started out, I thought, okay, open houses, all these kind of things where you're social, you're meeting people, you're networking, you're kind of checking off all the lists of things you should be doing. And so, doing all that gung ho, and then suddenly no open houses and you're doing everything virtually. You're, for somebody like me who's extroverted, this was difficult, but
Crazy,
you look at doing different things. So instead of maybe going into a home, I was sending care packages out to clients. Here's some things you can do while at home, and just trying to keep in touch, checking in on everybody. How are you really
how
doing?
it changed. Yeah, how it changed so much. You went from doing giving away certain prizes to people to buying hand sanitizer has your name on it or whatever, right? That's what I had. It's just a completely different way of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, this is a face-to-face type of thing. That's what people want. And you suddenly, everything face-to-face is what we're doing right now, and that's great, but there's a little bit of a disconnect there. You want to sit down at a table with people and talk about what's going on, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. I think the good thing for me, I was already involved in the community a lot. I was already reaching out and getting involved in different things before the pandemic started, before I even got into real estate. So
right.
I was already kind of out there and around the community. So for me, I mean, it's, is it hard for an agent to start off? Sure is. At the best of normal, times, it made it more difficult, but we were an essential service. I was still closing homes, all masked up and Lysol spraying. And
I saw some of your pictures on social media too.
Yeah.
Again, no more showing like a nice picture of a kitchen. It's like, hey, look at all the hand sanitizer and the masks that I have out, right?
Yeah, lined up. And, I'm now talking to you from the backyard. So you had to make it work. So that's what you do. So I can't complain. I really can't.
That's every business too, right? It's like every business has had to pivot. Even with us, like everything's video, everything's e-signature, everything is just virtual. So I think the people who can make that pivot happen are going to be successful, right? And I think I'm like you, right? Like I'm an extrovert. as much as I don't mind doing this sort of thing, I would much rather be doing it in person, talking to people, having, human to human interaction. And
Agreed.
it's just a game changer, right?
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're
Now,
slowly getting back to that. I mean, little by little. And I think, vaccinations and different things going on, there's a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think people are a little less on the, yep, we're not going to do anything right now. They're starting to think about it again, and things are starting to take a bit of a turn. But
yep.
it's been rough on everybody. You're adapting to it, or you're not, and you're kind of, sitting under the blankets waiting for it to be over. And
Yep.
it's hard. There's no easy way or magic formula, I don't think, for any of us to get through this. We're just all doing the best we can.
For sure, for sure. So, and I interrupted you when I said
That's
to
okay.
tell me about yourself, but let me lead you back into that.
Sure.
Why real estate? There's a lot of other jobs you could be doing, right? How'd you choose real estate 2 years ago?
So there was a switch, I think, that went off in me. And where it kind of began, I had debated on it several years ago. I actually got into the wedding business instead. So
Good
I
choice you
had,
got out of that one.
yeah, well, yeah, there you go. But I was in the wedding business. I was doing event planning. I think I've always been in a role that involved public service, one way or the other. So already used to that sort of, positioning. I think the switch that went off for me and why I wanted to get into it several years ago, we lost our father. Our mother, who he was, caretaking in the home, she could not live on her own. She
Mhm.
certainly couldn't have lived with us.
Right.
God loved her, but it's not something we could have taken on. And so she had to go into assisted living, and we suddenly had this house that had to be sold, and quickly. So going through that process, I don't know, I had decided maybe this is something I would want to do to help other people. It's something I can say I experienced. And that's kind of where it started. So I ended up getting my senior real estate designation.
Oh, cool.
I've
Neat.
I've been talking to retirement homes. I mean, I do a whole range, different scenarios, obviously, but it was something that kind of set off a different detour for me, I think, because it was something I wanted to help out with. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew some friends in the business too, and they were like, you should try this. You've been doing everything else. You're already out there.
That's a
Why
big
not go
part of it.
for it?
When
It
someone
is.
tells you you
Yeah.
could be good at something, right away you get motivated to kind of do it, because right away you have that understanding, or is like someone else acknowledges you might be good at something, right? So
Yes.
that's an
Yeah.
automatic thing right there. So
Yeah. And I mean, it's a confidence boost, because a lot of friends and family said, of course this makes sense for you, right? You're out
yeah,
there all the time. You're a social butterfly. Why wouldn't you try it? So,
for sure.
so far so good. Certainly
Yep.
didn't expect some of the awards, didn't see that coming that quickly, but you know,
Take it when you
uh,
can get it, boy.
I'll
Take it
take
when
it
you
when I
can get
can
it.
get it. I haven't sold, a million homes in a year, but hey, I closed homes during a pandemic and I have some awards.
Hey, it's
Great
more than
start.
some
Why
people,
not?
so that's good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So of interest, so you're
Sure.
you're of Italian heritage. And so
Yes.
when you said, I hope my mom's not listening, but when you said that your mother could never come live with you, so raised in Italian, I was
Yes.
raised in an Italian home. My mom's Italian the whole bit. It's funny how you worded that, and I'll come out and just say I couldn't
Yes.
have my mother live with us. It would never happen. I'd be divorced. I'd be moving out
Yes.
somewhere else. Love my mother. She's a fantastic lady.
Yeah.
But interest in the way you worded that, so I can appreciate
Yes.
that background and that culture of, yeah, sorry, mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a combination of things too. I think, they're aging, things are deteriorating too.
Yeah.
I have a child as well, this whole sandwich generation of, you're taking care, and it's happening a lot right now. You're taking
Yeah.
care of your parents, you still have kids in the home, you're trying to juggle both. And I completely understand why people are doing it. There's, certain stigmas with long-term care right now with COVID, and
Yeah.
I can understand the fear, absolutely. But I think there comes points where you can't provide the care that they're going to need. You don't have the expertise in scenarios like, say, she was starting to slowly get dementia. I wouldn't call it an expert, diagnosis, but there were clearly things happening where it was like, okay, this is, no, we can't, this is not going to work out well. They weren't even in town, to be honest. They were out of town, 3 hours away, lots of issues. So I think I can understand where there's that moment in time where you have to say, we have to do something differently with this for their sake, for our sake. It's a situation that affects the whole family. And yes, at the same time, culturally, they were old school, especially my father. So I don't think, they're both resting peacefully now. I don't think they would have handled the pandemic well. I think my dad would have taken his cigarette lighter and burnt every mask that somebody tried to put on him. So in some respects, I'm kind of glad they didn't have to live through this, but they'll tell you, I mean, they went through wars. So they'll tell you this, okay, you have to stay home. Sorry about that.
Well,
it's
this is
different.
it, right?
It's a different generation.
I heard one person say, like, stop complaining that you're working from home because you're working and you have a home. And I get that. I totally get that. It's just that our society, our culture now is so, what's the right word? Like everything's got to happen now, right? We have no
immediate gratification.
Thank you. That's exactly what the term I was looking for. And it's tough when you are cooped up in your house doing your job. Like, if you think about it, it's like, why are you complaining, right? But we're not used to that. That's the problem, right? And I think my grandmother passed away about 2 years ago, the February before COVID, and she was 104. And it's interesting you say that sandwich generation, because you're absolutely right. That is what it is. And they never had the food and all the crappy stuff we eat. They ate real food at the very beginning, where it was all healthy and all that stuff. So they live a lot longer. And you're right. I don't want to say we're stuck dealing with it, but we have all of it to deal with. Right. So
I look at it two different ways. So it's funny you say that, they're self-sufficient. They were self-sufficient for their time. I jokingly said to you when we were talking about doing this, we were talking about pandemics and apocalypse and all this sort of stuff. We would probably have rushed all to their home to stay, because if an animal ran through the backyard, it probably wouldn't make it out.
That's right. It's so true. Yes.
There's stories even behind that, but I won't get into this in case we have, animal rights and all that. I don't want any big backlash there. Based on I
don't want to mark this explicit. Okay. We'll try to keep it clean.
Anyway. So they were very much, self-sufficient. They came through a war. They were growing most of their vegetables. They were making most of their meat. They managed. I don't think they ever owned a credit card. They might have owned one maybe in the last 5 years of their lives, but never owned a credit card.
But credit cards are newer too, right? Like that's a newer thing starting in the 80s. So imagine they're so well off too. That's the crazy part. They're so well off, and they got through life without it. How crazy is that, eh?
They got through life simply. They were middle class, that kind of, scenario. They didn't have a lot of money all the time. Mom was home, dad worked, your typical kind of old school generation. This is how it was. And so that's what they're used to. So I think now, we talk about, we have to be home, we have to do all these things. I think everybody's struggling in their own way for their own circumstance. It's a tough situation. I don't think anybody's coming out of this unchanged to some degree.
That's a good way to put it.
I think that's why we're seeing, even in the housing market, everybody's like, what's going on? Well, people are migrating. They're now buying a pool. They're going to cottages. They're buying cottages. They're leaving the city. It's changed perspective. And you're seeing it all the time. We just, funny enough, looked into booking a cruise. I know.
How did
It's a
that
big
go
deal.
on? Are they giving them away for free right now or what?
Well, there's some good deals happening, but we're booking out in like 2023, like way, way
Wow.
out. Um,
So that's
and
actually the next time they're booking anything then, that
no, not
far out.
true. No, I think they're much sooner. That's what
Yeah.
we're doing,
Got
just
it.
to
Okay.
be comfortable with what's going on. But
Right.
the agent actually told me people that really have never even traveled before are just take my money, I'm going away. Um,
Wow. Just
they're
get me
they're
the heck out of here. I need
just
a
get me out of
change.
Dodge. Yep,
Wow.
get me out of Dodge. I can tell you from cottage country where our cottage is, where I market out there too, southwestern Ontario, Lake Huron. They're booking already rentals starting in May.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy. People want out, or they're going to do something to their backyard to make it the home that's still home, but feels like a getaway, basically. That's why you're
Well,
seeing pool sales increase so much too.
yeah, and I think listen, my wife and I we're a COVID stereotype. Okay, we just finished a basement renovation. This is the
Yep,
new office I'm sitting in right now. We need to make our house more accommodating for us
yep,
being here all the time,
for
right?
sure.
Again, love my wife, but I also like to not see her once in a while, right? So,
Yeah, yep,
happy marriage, right? So,
yep, for
but
sure.
we have that. We got a COVID puppy, thank you, thank you, Mel, for that. So it's one of those things where people are changing their lives. And then throw on top of that, people are doing these renos and stuff, or they're buying cottages. Well,
Yeah,
that means they're not selling their house. And I
yes,
think Trace and I are in the same boat where we've had that conversation. It would have been a ton easier to move. Let's just move. Let's go find the
yes.
place with the desk and the whatever. But why would we A, bother, and B, if we like our house, why would we sell the devil we know as opposed to buy the devil we don't know with no conditions and stuff? So
So
are you seeing that?
I think what's happening, well, we look at the housing prices right now, right?
And lack of
They're
inventory as well,
lack
right?
of inventory, COVID. I mean, people were holding off. They didn't want people walking through their homes, looking at things, opening drawers, when with the pandemic happening. I think specific circumstances, unfortunately, estate sales,
Right.
divorces, circumstances where you have to move or you're building. I mean, that's happening a lot
Right.
too. So you're moving on. I think circumstances that there's a must move, it's obviously that always happens and is still happening.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on where you are right now and what your next step is. So where we're seeing a lot of is people retiring early.
Right.
Obviously, if you get to work virtually now, for the most part, permanently, I mean, there's people, my own husband included, he still commutes to Toronto twice a week, but he
Really?
does the rest. Yeah, he does the rest at home. People are making changes, moving further out. I don't think it's necessarily that homes aren't selling. Yes, low inventory, that would indicate they aren't. I just think the scenario or situation behind the home selling are obvious ones, and COVID's played a real part in kind of pushing the envelope. If you were kind of teetering on it maybe 6 months ago, now you're
Right.
like, yeah, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
People, like you say, instant gratification. I think it's also, it's another reminder things change on a dime. So if you're going to
That's for
do
sure.
something, you're doing it right now. You're not waiting. So yeah, it's a lot of change. It's a strange, crazy time.
What do you think people are going to do in this world going forward relative to real estate? Like what's your, and hey, we're being recorded, so just remember
Yep,
that. What
of
is your
course.
what is your prediction? Because I'll be honest, like people ask me about mortgage rates and this and that, and honestly, like I tell them I could be wrong on this because you might look back and think I'm wrong, but the problem is, or what we have to look at now on the mortgage side is make a choice and a decision as of today with the facts
Yes.
presented.
Yes.
Don't look
Yeah.
back, because if you look
No.
back, you're going to drive yourself insane. But this is what was presented. This is what we have. This is
Yeah.
the information we have. What's the decision? What do you think is going to happen in real estate going forward?
I think, you have the stress test and everything still in play, right? So even with the very low interest rates, I think there's a cautionary measure there. But I think at some point, I have to believe at some point, people will want to go back to the city,
Mm,
but it'll be a
yeah.
long time from now. We're probably talking, and I mean, I'm not looking at any stats. I'm just saying as what I visualize, um, I could see the city thing kind of bounce back at some point,
Right.
but you're probably talking 5 years down the road, if not more. I don't think this is an immediate thing. I think this is a very slow kind of transition to where life will maybe get back to more like normal.
Mm,
But I don't think it's ever going to be the same again. I really
yeah.
don't.
Well, we've
Um,
gotten used to it now too.
we're
So
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 used to it. Yeah.
companies are now I used to hear the term work-life balance. Well, now it's like we got work-life balance for sure, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
people can say, well, I don't have to go to that meeting, or I don't have to, like, physically, I don't have to physically go to this. And
Right.
then I think you take that and combine it with, and I don't want to go too far down this road, but
Sure.
our country's horrific immunization statistics. I think I heard this
Yeah.
morning we're at 1.4% immunized, whereas the Americans, who have arguably not been very successful through this COVID thing,
Yes.
they're opening, like Texas is open, Minnesota's open, like everyone's opening up because we're vaccinated, right?
Well,
And
that's
it's
the
like,
thing, right? We're
come
we're
on.
slower. We're in a much slower pace for things to change back.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. And that's why I say, 5 years out, maybe more.
Mm.
I know what age bracket I'm in. I'm probably not getting a vaccination until late summer, if we're lucky,
Yeah.
unless they're really going to get doses quickly. So I think things are going to change at some point. They have to. It's a
Yeah.
cycle thing too, right? But I think my hope is even the country itself is going to look to how are we going to be more self-sufficient as a country
Yeah.
this time after this? Has this become a big learning lesson for everyone that you're relying on other countries to kind of help you when they're all well ahead of the scale? Shouldn't we be measuring up the same? I mean, unfortunately, we're not in the greatest position right now as a
You've taken the
country.
words right out of my mouth.
Yeah,
I'm with you, and I think someone's going to answer for this. And
I do too. I really do.
something, I don't know. I was talking to someone this morning. I'm like, something's not right here. Something
Yeah,
something has gone horribly wrong for a country who's handled this thing so well so far. Kind of, I something's not right. I mean, we're everybody's best friend in the world. Like
yes.
we send peacekeepers and this and that, and I'm like, why? What? Like, how are we in this place where we're still? I heard maybe a third lockdown's coming down because of a third wave. I'm like, what are we talking about? So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Someone's gonna have to answer for this, but we'll
I
see.
agree. I think, life moves on. I think at some point, people are still going to do what they want to do based on their
Yeah.
own circumstance. And we say that in real estate all the time, and that's not going to change. Why are you doing this? That's the big thing right now. If you're going to be out there looking, what's pushing your decision on this? I
Yeah.
think the thing right now is, or is it an emotional reason? Because when you get emotion into the factor, that can mess a lot of things up. You
Yep.
really have to be logical at making this kind of decision. Are you financially, this, are you financially set to be able to make this kind of change?
Yeah.
Why are
Exactly.
you making the change? The one thing I can tell you, from friends that are older, that are close to retirement, that have grandchildren, lots of families, you know what? We want to be closer to family. We want to be closer to the grandchildren. A lot of families, I'm not originally from Kitchener, I'm from Windsor. Most of our
Sorry to hear
family,
that.
yeah.
Oh, here comes the Windsor
Hey,
hate mail. Darn, I know what I'm doing
I
next
defend
week.
my hood. I defend my hood. Good times back
I'm
there.
from
Uh,
Scarborough, so I'm really not sure which
oh
one's
yeah,
worse,
there you
but
go. Yeah, no, I defend the hood. I'm. I love going back there to visit everybody.
awesome.
My family, we had a few, family members move out this way. They're all venturing back. I think
Yeah.
it's going back to the roots again. I just think there's just a lot of shifting around of what people are doing versus they were maybe going to consider a year ago. And I
Yeah.
think we're going to continue to see that because everybody's changed now. Anything
Yeah.
you thought you were going to do is kind of taking a, backseat to what am I doing now after this whole year of pandemic? What's changed?
Well, that's
So
exactly it. What's changed? What is going to change? And I just think a
it's
lot
a
of it's
great
just a great
unknown.
unknown.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's like even Trace and I, we sit around and we're like, all right, do we want to do this? Do we want to do that? Like, as we sit here, just to date this a little bit, this is what March break should have been, right? This should have been this week, and
Yep.
instead, we are seeing record volumes of houses moving and mortgages and stuff like that. And
Yep.
it's like, man, this is crazy stuff. So we'll see.
People
We'll
aren't
definitely
ready to
see.
leave. Yeah, people aren't. I mean, they're not traveling yet. We can't do it. I have no desire to sit in a quarantine hotel coming back.
At $2,000 a night. That better be one
Yeah,
heck
at
of a nice
2000.
hotel.
Yeah, with the bologna sandwich.
That's
No, not interested.
that's
I can
right.
wait. I
The
can
Trudeau
wait.
special. Oh, there goes another political comment. Anyway, very good.
Yeah.
Dory,
No,
thank you
yeah,
so
that's great.
much. This has
Yeah,
been a
thank
lot of
you.
fun. Okay, we'll definitely have you back because we could
For
probably
sure.
keep going for hours on this
We
stuff.
could, yeah.
If anyone wants to reach you, give a shameless plug, name, phone number, email, go.
Dori Mueller, 519-591-2997. Dori at dvnprt.net.
Cool.
Instagram.
Instagram. Okay, I only asked for a few things. Look at you. You must be a real estate agent because here you go. I got the handles. I got everything.
Realtor Dori, KW Region. I'll leave it at that.
Very good. Awesome. Dori, thanks so much. Been a lot of fun. We'll have you
Thank
back.
you.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Green Effect Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Google Play so you catch the next episode. And don't forget to leave a review. Much appreciated.